Here with Mark from the Eternal. Mark, thanks so much for having another chat to me.
No problem, mate. Always a pleasure.
It is always a pleasure to have you on. Uh, the last album, this one.
Yeah, that one, Waiting for the Endless Dawn. Yes.
See, I can do that on video, but not on audio. But yes, Waiting for the Endless Dawn. How did that go? How's the memory looking back on that?
I think it was an important record for us because it sort of brought back the focus of where we're going, or I guess the response from the listeners was quite positive. I think before we made that record, I was you know, probably mid-career confusion. I don't know. We're a band that's always, tried different things with our sound. And we had a sort of a period there, I think, around Under a New Sun and the album before that one, which was When the Circle Light Begins to Fade, where we kind of didn't really have a label behind us, and we were kind of sort of just a little bit in limbo as to where we were going, and we kind of moved into some different sounds. And when it came to doing Waiting for the Endless Dawn, I don't know, I didn't really have a lot to lose, so I just thought, "No, I'm just gonna make something really heavy and obnoxious and stupidly long songs, and The Wound, which goes for 20 minutes, and
Mm.
just really, and also return to the roots a little bit. And I listened to a lot of our own music, and worked out what it was to me. And so we made that record, and it was on a small label in Finland called Inverse Records. Great guys. And it wasn't a huge album by any means, but it got a very positive response from the listeners and the media. And that was good. So we were able to return to Europe on that one and do some touring in Australia. I think we saw you on that one.
Hmm.
And yeah, that was sort of uplifting in a way, even though the music's not very uplifting. And we sort of got back on a path again. That was also the first album with guitarist Richie Pote, who's from well-known Australian band Dreadnought. And he was a breath of fresh air to the band and instantly became my songwriting collaborator, which is probably the first time I really had a songwriting collaborator in the whole history of the band. So it was a good time for us. And the tour that followed was a club tour with a festival or two thrown in. So it was a really, I guess, a positive period. And it also was part of I guess the trip to Europe sort of helped instigate what followed with the new lineup as well,
Mm.
um, which I'm sure we want to talk about.
Mm.
So yeah, I felt that sort of set a good kind of stepping stone to where we've headed towards with Skinwalker.
Mm. Tell us about the Finland connection. How did that start? Where did that Where did that start? When?
Well, if we look at the Eternals connection to Finland, it goes back to the first record, really. I mean, we've always been on a Finnish label when we've had a label. First Firebox, and then Inverse, and that ended up with me traveling over to Finland quite a few times. We played there a fair few times, and I just started to visit because I started to make a lot of friends over there. And then we started to support all the Finnish bands that were coming here, like him and 69 Eyes and all those bands. And then I did a tour of America with another Finnish band, and Finland just, became involved in our lives. Probably an important one was that we did the Circle tour with Amorphous in
Hmm.
Australia.
Hmm.
That was 2013, and I befriended Nicholas primarily on that one, who is now our bass player. Um, and that led me to going to Loud Park the following year in 2014 to see Amorphous. And that's when I sort of really connected more with Jan Reckberger, the drummer of
Hmm.
Amorphous. And, so we stayed in touch a little bit. Me and Nick wrote a couple of songs here and there just online for a bit of fun. But when it really sort of kicked off was when we went over there in 2019 for our shows. And the first text I actually got when I got off the plane was Jan going, "Hey man, you want to come and hang down at the studio?" Because he's a studio nerd like I am. And So we went and hung down at the studio, and Nicholas came down as well. So the Australian lineup of the Eternal was there, and Nicholas and Jan were there. There's actually a
Yeah,
photo of the four of us at that period, and
yeah,
so anyway, we had a great time. We came back from that tour, and we lost a drummer. So it was about COVID was about to happen. The lockdowns are about to kick off, and you know, me and Richie were sitting in the studio going, what are we going to do? We're going to grab another Aussie guy, or are we going to try something a little different? Push the sound a bit further. So we reached out to Jan and just said, "Hey man, you doing much? You want to play on this record?" And he's like, "Well, I'm not doing much because COVID." And so he learnt the songs, and he recorded his drum parts. And so Jan was playing as a session guy, but pretty much within a month or two, he was like, "I want to join this band." And he had a lot to bring to the
mm.
table. Like, I mean, he was helping us. The opening track. Have you heard the whole album, Mel?
Yeah,
Yet?
yeah,
Did you
yeah,
get?
yeah.
Yeah. So the opening track, "Abandoned by Hope," was originally about 14 minutes. It was the wound part two. But Jan got really good at helping us like sort of tame things a little bit. And I remember, and we didn't have the song "Death Like Silence" actually. Yeah, yep, he's a great cutter and
Yeah.
a very experienced musician. And he's not only a drummer; he's a great percussionist and great sound engineer and great at building soundscapes. So he just got really into it, and so that was working really well. And then our bass player Dave, unfortunately, decided to depart. It was mutual. It was sad because we'd been together for Jesus, like 10, 12, 13 years with Dave. And but he had his second child, and he really needed to put focus on family, which is, understand. My baby is the eternal. So at that point we thought, well, we got one Finn and Nick's hanging around over there, so let's see if he'll get involved. So
Might as
Nick came in
well.
and played. Yeah, exactly. And so Nick played on the record as well, and he also decided to join the band. So we both, we said we'll work out logistics later. So we didn't have a deal solidified at that point. So we did our album. Richie and myself went over to Finland to mix it. So the four of us mixed it for a month together, and it took
So
quite a
hang
long.
on, let me butt in here. Sorry, recorded
Yes,
basically remotely. You guys here, those guys there,
yes,
and then you went over there to mix it. Is that right?
yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, Nick recorded his bass at his studio. Jan did the drums and various other parts at his studio. And we had a few guests that sent stuff in. Um, Albert sent in his throat singing from Russia. Aliane sent her cello playing in from the Netherlands. And a few other guests popped in the studio in Finland as well. So yeah, so we recorded the whole thing remotely. We're very good at recording technology, so it was really easy for us. But then it was really important that we mixed it together. We had to bring it together in its final form, and we did. And so we finished that. Actually, the new album has almost been finished for 2 years, I have to say. But
Yeah. Right.
um, we had to shop for a deal after that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that took
Yeah.
about a year as well, and then another 6 months waiting for the album to come out. So that leads us to where we are today.
um, how long? Where were you mixing it over there? What was the deal over in Finland?
Oh, Jan's got a studio, Moon Unit
At Jan's
Studios,
place. Yeah. Okay.
with another guy. So yeah, we've all got like really quite good studios. So yeah, we just decided to go to Helsinki to do it, and yeah, there was no real additional studio costs or anything for us. So the whole album is a DIY experience, start to finish. What you're hearing is completely created by the band and engineered by all of us, and primarily mixed by myself and Jan with some input from Richie as well.
Okay. So tell us about this deal. Shopping around for a deal. How did that go down? And how did you get to where you are?
Okay, well, I guess the big news for the Eternal is we have quite a good deal at the moment, with a bigger the biggest label we've been on, and now label mates with Opeth and Meshuggah and a few
Mm.
other bands like that, which is interesting.
The roster is just getting crazy.
Yeah, some
over
great
there.
great bands on there. And of
Mm.
course we're a small little we're a small fish on that in that big sea. But I guess we were sending the album around when it was completed, and Young was very convinced we could get something a bit bigger. And we're used to being a small time operation, so we had our doubts, but we were talking with a few people. We had a few people listening to. We were going back and forth. Then Atomic Fire at the time, who are now RPM, they've changed their name. They listened to it, and they sort of were interested. And that took about a 10-month negotiation of working out
Wow.
what we were going to do. Like, are we a real band? Are we a real lineup? Are we going to play? Um, you know, how how are we going to approach this? And of course, negotiating the terms. So that was signed off in around January the 4th, I think. I was over in Finland again, so we got to sign it together. And yeah, and so since then we've been working together on this record, which has been really nice so far.
Mm. So you mentioned discussing how you're going to make it work. How are you going to make it work? When does it start?
Well, it's already started. We're already in sort of pre-production for how we're going to play, and what we're going to do. But we'll rehearse together, uh, in Europe or here first, depending on where we decide to start doing shows. I think most likely we'll start with shows in Finland. Just seems like a safe place for us to kick off. So, we all like we're very much of the school that when we rehearse, we already know the stuff really well. We rehearse individually. We have stems set up with all the parts for us to practice, so we can just walk in and practice for a few days, and we're pretty good to go. So that's what we'll do. So we'll basically get together before a tour, and we'll rehearse for that. We're also talking about how to put visuals together, and who we're going to play with. And there's been a few opportunities that have popped up that are not quite right yet, because there is the logistics of the additional cost of two members having to go somewhere else,
Mm.
which is a little bit more expensive. But ultimately, also we have to work around Jan's touring schedule with Amorphous, so that's his main band.
Mhm.
Um, well, his day job definitely that he does, um, and we respect that totally, of course. But we don't want to go out without Jan because he's such a big part of the band now. Like he's definitely, um, a huge part of the creation of this. So I'm expecting it'll be early 2025. So we'll do something in Europe, and hopefully, if I can pull it off, we'll do something in Australia.
Excellent. Back to the album. You mentioned The Wound before, 20 minutes. Um, so we've got this album trimmed to just on an hour.
Yes.
There's only one song over 10 minutes, but there's a
Yes.
couple that are pretty close behind.
Yeah.
So apart from the aforementioned cutting on, what was it, Abandoned by Hope you mentioned before, 4 minutes or something cut on there. You also dropped an interesting word before, soundscape. It's that's a good word to
Yeah.
describe this album actually, because I have heard it a couple of times, and that's as soon as you said that word before, I thought, that's a good word.
That's what I mean, sonically, we, I guess lots of words are getting thrown around about this record, that it's got doom elements, it's got melodic metal elements, it's got progressive metal elements, it's got cinematic type of elements. And I think the Eternal has had all these elements in its DNA for a long time, but
Mm,
they've
mm,
really come to fruition on this record. But yeah, we're definitely like Jan is big into like his father was a composer, and he's big into cinematic type stuff, and I'm very big into like sort of ambient like guitar music as well. So we wanted to incorporate kind of that textual element to the record. Also, I'd like to address, when we use the word prog with the Eternal, we're not talking about you having to sit there and count out bars of 7/4, 7/3, whatever.
yeah.
Like we we use it more in the Pink Floyd way, that it's more of a journey with sort of experimental sounds
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
involved. Yes,
yeah.
there's some interesting time signatures and some interesting stuff, but I think in the band, or Jan pretty much says we don't want to prog for prog's sake. So if I'm writing something that it just gets like we're counting numbers, then it's like, hey Mark, let's chill that out a little bit, you know. But we sort of go from the progressive perspective by the journey and
Yeah,
the sort of soundscape of the songs that we're trying to take you on.
I agree completely. Well worded. You don't want to get that tap on the shoulder. Finland is a fascinating place. Tell me about your time there.
It is a fascinating place, and they're fascinating people. And I have to say that the country is, you know, has from I think from the first time I went there, it had a bit of my heart. You know,
Mm,
it was a place where the music was or is that I like. There's lots of bands, there's lots of studios, there's lots of creativity going on, and I just found the people to always be really kind of like loyal. Whenever I go back, people I met 20 years ago, I still see. You know,
mm,
from our first trip, and they don't say a lot of shit that they don't mean, and they
yeah.
don't say a lot sometimes at all.
Mm.
It's a beautiful place. It's hard to be in sometimes. I mean, at Christmas time, I was there staying with Jan and his family, and it was minus 25 degrees. So, and then summer's beautiful, you know. But it's just my creative hub, I guess. Like we just spend time making music together, and it's just really I don't know. It's a unique place. I've been to a lot of places in the world with this band, and that place just seems to always resonate with me, and I feel very at home there.
Mm. The musical talent over there is just out of this world. I mean, they've got to have more top quality bands per head of population than any country in the world.
I think there's actually statistics to prove that. I
Yeah,
think it's like Finland and Sweden and Norway have a huge amount of metal bands.
Finland are ahead of the rest. I mean, I could sit there and just rattle off Finnish bands, and how many people are there? 5, 6 million?
Even a bit less, about a bit under five, I think.
Yeah,
So
it's
yeah,
just fucking crazy.
and
The
it's got a
the
very like
pool of
it helps.
talent for the size population is just incredible.
I think there's not a lot to do in winter except play your guitar and play your drums. Those winters are long, my friend. So
When I Yes, look, that's the direct answer I've gotten when I've interviewed a few Finnish bands over the years, and I can't remember which one it was, but that was the answer I got. In winter, like there's nothing else to do. You stay inside and play music. So
yeah, I mean that's what we did. Like I was there at Christmas and we worked on the next record. So we've got
fucking minus 25. My God.
yeah. I mean we're basically we're inside. We did have to walk the dog quite a lot, which was quite challenging. I had a lot of clothes that I didn't have beforehand. So,
Mm,
um,
mm,
but other than that, we were like doing Christmas, or we were in the studio working on the next record.
unreal. Now, there's a pretty impressive list of guest musicians uh, on this album, many and varied. One which jumped out at me right straight off the bat was Sammy from Creator. That's an odd one. How did he get involved?
He's Finnish, isn't he? So creator's German, but Sammy's Finnish, and he's sometimes down at the studio working where Jan is doing stuff. So Sammy, Nicholas and Jan are very good friends with him. So um, basically, they knew he could play the sitar, and he was around the studio, and there was a
Yeah, right.
sitar. Yes, he's playing the sitar, not the guitar. So we needed a sitar because Jan always has these ideas for these exotic extra things we should add. And he's like, Temptation's Door, which is the start of the song, The Iconoclast. He's like, we need a sitar. I'm like, cool, man. He goes, I know Sammy from Creator. He can play the sitar. So Sammy was there and he laid down a beautiful sitar part, which was fantastic. So
Unreal.
unusual guest appearance for him, but he's a really lovely, down to earth guy.
Mm, unreal. Creator were here just a few months back, actually. They were really good.
Oh, I didn't even realize.
Yeah, they came out with In Flames.
Wow, I wish I had to check that out. I would like to say hi to Sammy. He was at our listening party in Helsinki the other day.
Yeah.
And but yeah, we've got a lot of, I guess, people popping in on the record.
So tell us about, I mean, Sitar, called the guy from Creator. What else have we
Yeah,
got
I guess
surfacing on the album?
we have our regular female guest vocalist, which is Emily Sayan, and she's Russian, but she lives in Australia. She lives in Melbourne for quite a while now. But when I met her, and when she first guested on the Eternal, she lived in Russia. So um, she came in, and she always sort of adds, her voice works really well with mine. So we always get her in for some extra texturing. And of course, we on this album we have a little bit of death growly type stuff, not much, only 3 songs. And initially I was going to do it. It's not my favorite thing to do, and I'm not the best at it in the world. I did it on the last record. And it's sort of something that we only do on occasion if we need it. But of course, Jan's an amorphous with the best, Tommy J. Tommy J is one of the best death vocalists around, or the best growlers. And so I said, would Tommy do some growls on Abandoned by Hope? Because, he's the best. And Tommy, who I've met quite a few times, is really down to earth. And so Jan went over and recorded him. And then I was like, man, just get him to do all 3 because I can't fucking, I don't want to be on the record. So actually, I'm doing a little bit underneath. I'm doing a little bit of the high textures and stuff, but ultimately, you can't compete with that guy on the growls. And then we have a throat singer on the song Skinwalker, which is this kind of type thing that's going on. Which is once again a yarn connection. And he's Mongolian, but he lives in Russia, I believe. His name's Albert Kurvison, I believe, if I say it properly. It's probably not right. But he's a Grammy-nominated throat singer. And we sent it off, he sent it back, and it blew our minds. And then we were in the studio in Helsinki, and we needed a guest. We wanted a real Hammond organ feeling for Under the Black, which is our single coming out Thursday. And of course, Centeri from Amorphous was around the corner. So he recorded that for us and sent it back. And then we've got Aliane Animate, and she's from Celestial Season in the Netherlands, and she's been a long time friend of mine. And I think, did she come over when we were mixing? I feel like she did. But anyway, we basically, I've toured with her before when I was briefly in a band called Alternative 4 with Duncan Patterson. So she added some cello, and then we actually have an American Indian doing chants on the song The Iconoclast. So all the chanting and the tribal, all the Indian drums you hear are real. And his name is Yovan Nagwet, and he's an American Indian, and he contributed to that song. So I think that's all the guests.
Unreal.
So,
Right, you mentioned a single coming out very soon. Tell us about the singles you've released and any info on the film clips you've done.
Well, this will be the 4th single from the record and the last single. And basically, it's called Under the Black. We have a lyric video for that one. We have 2 music videos that were completed and 2 lyric videos. So the first one came out, I don't even remember. Maybe it was March or April, somewhere around there. And that was Death Like Silence. We used the same guy on all our music videos, which is a guy from Brisbane called Red Tape Pictures. He's unbelievable. He's fantastic. He's so old school. He uses no AI, all real actors, makeup, hair and makeup, the whole thing. And we just send in our band footage and let him do what he wants to do.
Yeah, right.
We really don't interject. He's really creative, and I don't really like people sitting around my shoulder unless it's Jan or Richie when I'm mixing. So I don't like to do that to other people we hire for creative needs. And so the first video was great, which was Death Like Silence, and the single was pretty well received. Had a good really sort of start to things. It was one of the more catchy songs on the record. It was also the last song we wrote for the record. We'd actually finished the record, and Jan said, we need one more song. We need a catchy song, boys, if we want to get a new record deal. And so
You need cherry pie, man.
Yeah, so we pulled our cherry pie together really quickly, and then spent some time refining it. It wasn't what it is at the start, but we definitely spent a lot of time refining that song. That was followed by the title track Skinwalker, which is a darker, brooding,
Mm,
not
mm,
typical single song besides the length.
mm.
I think I had some people who fucking really loved it, and some people were scratching their head. Like that's really dark, guys. Followed by another great video for When the Fire Dies, which is it seems to be a song that's resonated with people. It has a very straightforward kind of lyrical approach to it. I wrote the lyrics in a way that anyone who doesn't even speak English could understand what we were singing about. That was kind of my mantra to myself there. So I wanted a really simple approach. But the music video that Clint did was beautiful. He was under the pump. He had about 4 weeks to do that one, and he knocked it out of the park. We literally had to hand it over to the label the day he finished it. So,
Yeah, man.
um, yeah, and so you know, the album's out Friday, and the fourth single and lyric video. I've done the lyric videos myself, as well as a sound background. I have a graphic background. I made that T-shirt you're wearing right now, for
Good
example.
man.
So I did the new lyric video. So Under the Black is a cool. We all really like that song. It's kind of got this moody Floyd thing that kicks off into a really proggy second half of the song. And I think it represents what's happening on the album really well. I think to get the full picture of what's happening with the record, you really need to listen to all the songs in context and in order. I think the singles out of context are cool and they're nice little snapshots, but you'll get the whole flavor of the lyrical context and the flow of the music. We design things to be heard as an album.
Mm,
So
yeah. No, that's cool. Rock and roll.
yeah, man.
What else is happening at the moment?
Well, while we were working on solidifying our record deal and everything, we were furiously writing new music. Now, I know it was between 6 years between the albums previously, but this time I don't think you'll expect to wait more than two. We've actually written 13 songs. Everyone's contributed. Everyone's written complete demos. We've completely demoed it. And Jan's nearly finished the drums for the next record. So we've got 13 songs under our belt. Not all of them will be on the record, but nonetheless, it's a very prolific time. So we've got a lot of music. So we're working on that record, and we're also meeting next week to start planning our touring options. So we'll be definitely coming out to support Skinwalker in at least Europe and Australia, and we'll definitely be coming back to you with new music sooner than you expect. But in the meantime, I really hope that you take the time to check out Skinwalker and our little creation. It's completely created by the band itself, engineered, mixed, recorded, written, um, and we're very proud of it. So we hope to take some time to check it out.
And so you should be proud.
Thank you very much, Mel.
One thing before we go, it's tradition, please, for the interview screenshot. Give me the horns up in the camera, please. Good man. Right. Mark, thanks for having a chat to me, man. Well
My
done
pleasure.
on the new album. Congratulations on the new deal, and best of luck when you get it out there on the road, and can't wait to see it down here.
Thank you so much, Mel. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
You have a good one, man.
You too, buddy.